evening and welcome to Face to Face, our current affairs program where we explore the most pressing issues from the Central and Eastern European perspective. I'm Anna Kalczyńska and I'm joined today by Michał Broniatowski, Editor-in-Chief of TVP WORLD. Good evening, Michał.
Good evening.
All right, so let's kick off with the OSCE meeting in Malta, where top diplomats and foreign ministers gathered, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and long-time no-see Russia's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Sergey Lavrov. 57 delegations. I wonder, what's your take on that, with Poles Czech walking out when Lavrov entered the room? What should be actually the strategy vis-à-vis the Russian foreign minister? What could be the expected reaction?
I strongly support what these delegations did, because tolerating Mr. Lavrov on a public soil, on international soil, the man who is co-responsible for atrocities, the only way to approach it is by ignoring him, or at least not allowing him to speak up. And then he was given a microphone there, as his representative in the United Nations is using. Every time when he speaks, he lies. Polish Foreign Minister Sikorski had two chances to strongly rebuke his statements. Lavrov was given a chance to speak on a forum which, since its inception, still during the Cold War, was the platform for defense of human rights. And now it is allowing people who should stand in front of an international crime tribunal rather than speak from this rostrum. This is painful. This is painful,
this is true. Lavrov attending OSCE meeting, in my opinion, sends a signal also ahead of approaching negotiations as Russia gains momentum on the battlefield. But my question to you, is it not a sign of weakness on the part of those willing states of the coalition supporting Ukraine?
Their argument is that we need to give diplomats a chance to talk to Russians and to find out solutions.
Yes, well, but democracy is all about talking and listening, that's true.
Yes,
but in this
moment,
particular moment?
You don't have to do it on table in a televised statement. You can speak in closed cabinets about these issues, and that's why Lavrov is one of the very, very few Russian officials who are not castigated with sanctions on the part of the European Union, exactly for the purpose of him being capable of meeting with his counterparts elsewhere outside Russia. It doesn't mean that he has right to speak in public. This is outrageous.
All right, let's see what's going to happen next. What comments can we hear from OSCE representatives, high top diplomats? Because this is also important, right? What's going to be the reaction to the words that we're going to hear?
Poland is not for the first time opposing Mr. Lavrov. The entire Russian delegation was not allowed into Poland 2 years ago, when Poland was actually a host of the regular meeting of OSCE. So it's not for the first time. And it was still under the previous Polish government. So it shows a sort of continuity, a good continuity of Polish foreign
That is true.
politics.
This time only Maria Zakharova's visa was revoked.
Because she is sanctioned.
Because she is indeed sanctioned. Okay, so just for the record, let me quote Radosław Sikorski, for that matter. Russia is honoring neither the sanctity of borders in Europe nor human rights. It was given a chance to become more European, to mend and civilize its ways, but unfortunately its tyrannical culture got the upper hand. So, well, let's see. So to France now, where we have the parliamentary crisis in full swing again, as Michel Barnier, the French Prime Minister, has faced a no-confidence vote on the budget, with the left-wing parties aligning with the right-wing parties and bringing down his government. Barnier submitted his resignation to Emmanuel Macron, rendering the budget that led to his downfall totally ineffective. So the stakes are huge. Emmanuel Macron cannot dissolve the parliament until July. He has to cope with what he has on the table. France apparently plunges into some sort of a political chaos.
Some caretaker government will have to be created by Macron. I think that indeed situation is impossible to solve, because it happens so that leaders of both parties, which have been instrumental in the no confidence vote against Barnier, are both hoping to start successfully in presidential elections in 2027. So they have their long-time games, and they will do all they can to show their possible voters how strong they are, and so on, even at the expense of France entering next year without a budget. You know, we don't have to be very sympathetic to Mr. Macron, but it would be good if he was able to solve the crisis, because it appears now in the two biggest key states of the European Union, we have a serious political crisis, turmoil, both in France and in Germany, which is facing elections next February, and new president who is unpredictable is coming to power in the end of January next year. We have war in Ukraine. There is a looming trade conflict with China, and also unsolved situation in the Middle East. And two most important countries of the European Union are in this array.
This is true. However, Germany still has some sort of hope ahead, right, with election coming. In France, everybody knows that it was Marine Le Pen's tactical neutrality which helped Michel Barnier to form and to sustain his government, because she basically abstained on previous votes in the parliament. So what could be her next move, talking about Marine Le Pen?
I don't know. It's, she has...
Is she going for power?
Of course. Not only with the prospect of these presidential elections in 2 years, coming in 2 years, but also extremes like to get together. And I wouldn't exclude completely some sort of at least working coalition, not a ideological coalition between
the left and right.
The left and right. They are cynical, all these people, and they can do it. But, there is one thing also which I forgot to mention, which may be difficult for Macron for future. It is the fact that his weakness may be used by the President of the European Union, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, who is going to Latin America to sign
Mercosur agreement.
Mercosur is the organization of biggest countries in South America, and this trade agreement, which has been in working for the last 2 decades, is against the interests of France, and France mainly because of agriculture.
And Poland too, so Poland is losing an ally, right?
Exactly. And so France is trying to create a coalition in order to be able to achieve this minority, a blocking minority. They need 35 countries representing 35% of the population of the European Union. And it's still on the verge. So with the weakness of France and now involved in internal issues, they may have not enough space and force to influence other interested parties to join. And it may well happen that Mrs. von der Leyen will have a free hand to sign the treaty.
Definitely, as next months are going to be high in drama in France and low in legislation and decision-making, unfortunately. But following on the European matters, if I may, let's discuss Didier Reynder's case. up until now, the Commissioner for Justice, EU Commissioner for Justice, who is under scrutiny regarding some internal law. He created an explicit carve-out for national lotteries. The exact method, he is under suspicion. So how about that? How is this even possible?
It's very embarrassing for Brussels because Didier Reynders was, in the previous European Commission, he was a commissioner for justice. So he was the loudest speaker in Brussels who was criticizing Orban's government in Hungary for corruption. So, one being now him being suspect of strange operations with money. Okay, we don't know if it is all true, but indeed, police was searching his offices and his flat. So,
and he's been out of office for several days right now.
Yeah, so. And they waited until they can do it because previously he was under protection of immunity and political crisis, which could have been created if he was, under scrutiny already while in office. So they waited until he went away and did what they did. But it's
the second scandal after the Qatar money lately. So we all agree that high-ranks officials, EU officials in particular, should be of high moral integrity.
Yes, it's good time for Mr. Orban. He's already taking advantage of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Michał, good news and bad news from Romania. How do we start? What do you think?
Start with good news.
So the good news in Romania is that the pro-EU parties have agreed to form a coalition to keep the country on the right track, pro-NATO and pro-EU. That's a good news ahead of the Sunday presidential runoff. But exactly, the presidential candidate Călin Georgescu, the right-wing populist candidate, is likely to win with some 60% according to different polls. And now he is expected, he says that at least, he declares major shifts in Romania foreign policy. He says he would ban the Ukrainian transport of grain through his country. He would suspend military aid to Kiev, and he would completely disregard any military spending on NATO, any commitments NATO would declare to raise. So that raises many concerns, and we can say that no one's under any illusions now.
The problem is that Romanian president can indeed not only say he would do it, but he can also impose such moves because he is responsible by constitution for foreign relations. So this is serious. For example, why it is important for the Ukrainian grain, because Ukraine is still using ports in Danube estuary, which belongs to Romania, to export large part of its grain to avoid being attacked when they sail from Odessa. So this is a very dangerous development. However, yes, polls are showing between 50 to 60% in his favor, but there are still 40% of people who are not decided. So let's see what happens and how successful can be, again, his campaign
on social media, which is seen as mainly responsible for his sudden growth in public support. Well, with multiple thousands of fake accounts of TikTok, that might imply a different approach ahead of the runoff.
These accounts may be blocked by TikTok. Before the elections, there was treating posts in favor of Mr. Georgescu as entertainment, not political ones.
Okay.
And that's why they were not blocking them. Now they may behave in a different way, but nevertheless, it's not internet which is winning elections. It's people who are
casting the ballot.
We may only hope that this obvious protest vote against the establishment from 2 weeks ago will be a one-time event, and people will vote at least in a similar way they voted last Sunday in parliamentary elections.
Well, we will have this situation to be discussed on Monday as we meet. So now back to Syria and the Russian presence in the conflict. So basically, Russia is losing ground. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, this is another place where Russia is losing and cannot do very much about it, because the regime of Mr. Assad in Syria was mostly supported by Russia physically, militarily, and by Hezbollah, terrorist group based in Lebanon, mostly in Lebanon, and supported by Iran. But of course, they were also supported by Russia, even armed by them, and they have just suffered a major defeat at the hands of Israel. So there's really not much these supporters of Mr. Assad can do. Attacking forces of the former Al-Qaeda allies, the group called, I will read it, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. This group is Islamist, but when the world is watching from a distance, including American politicians, like, for example, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who said that America is really concerned, but we don't cry over the pressure on Assad, Russia and Hezbollah there. However, they are, of course, concerned about the fact that Islamists are winning, the group which is considered as a terrorist group by United States. So
this is never good news. But what could that mean for our region? Could that weaken Russia somehow?
Of course. Russia can still rely on support from global south, right? And if they get compromised in places like Syria, when they show that they are unable to support, to sustain autocratic regime in Syria, they will not be credible for other countries which are relying also on help from Russia, especially in Africa. So, well, bad news for Russia, good news for Europe, and especially for Ukraine.
We will have an opportunity to discuss this on Monday as we meet. Thank you very much. Michał Broniatowski.
Thank you.
Thank you, because that concludes this edition of Face to Face. So please join us every Monday and Thursday at 10:40 CET. And stay tuned to TVP World. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.